Well, welcome to the Ropes Family Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about dads. Courtney, you're not a dad.
Nope.
But I'm going to ask you, what is a dad?
A dad is a male parent. It's just as groundbreaking as what is a mom.
A female parent.
Yep.
I am nothing but a male parent.
That's all you are.
I mean, so I kind of want, it's Father's Day coming up. And by the way, if you hear some snoring in the background, it's not me or Courtney. It's Easton. He's asleep behind me in his car seat. And he'll probably sleep through this, but if you hear some snoring or him crying, just know he's all right. He's not going anywhere. But Father's Day is right around the corner. And so I wanted to record a podcast kind of like the same thing we did with Mother's Day. Talk about what is a mom, what is a dad. And I think you could answer that question a lot of different ways. A male parent is the easiest way. But, you know, there's lots of versions of dads. And so I kind of want to talk about what is a good dad. But where you start and figure out what a man is, where do you think you would start with that, Courtney?
Like what do we think of dad? Like what do we see?
Yeah, so culture kind of tells us what a man is. What does like culture tell us a man is? Masculine
guy wearing jeans and a t-shirt, carrying a baseball bat.
Ben, are you taking notes?
And a cap. You have to have a cap on. Let's be clear. Oh, he's also like at the grill.
Okay. So that's kind of what culture is.
That's what I see when
you think of a man.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you. You know, a lot of times on TV and like on TikToks and things like that, you get goofy or dumb guys. That's kind of like a man. Like you get your goofy dads, or you get your really stoic cowboy pant or cowboy jeans. You know, jeans, cowboy boots kind of man. Those are the kind of two. Like, and if you don't fit in one of those, where are you? You know, I don't fit in either one of those. I mean, maybe the silly dad one, but maybe I do a little bit.
Skater boy dad.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, that culture says that all these things are a man. Like you have to be masculine. You have to be tough. You have to be
very little emotion.
You got to be. There's manly. You got to be manly. Right. And but I don't fit some of those things. But culture has this idea of manhood. But I think that we as Christian men, we as men, we have a different standard of manhood that I think that we could look at, that we should look at. This should be our example. So Jesus, he was the perfect man, right? So if a man wants to be a good man, they need to be looking at Jesus. Right, Jesus doesn't fit the same mold that our culture of man has. He's countercultural, like our D now was, you know. And it's not just for necessarily men to follow Jesus' example. It's for men and women, for all of creation, all of created in His image to follow Him. But Jesus, you know, like you can look at Jesus as he's humble, right? And so men, we're called to be humble. That's kind of countercultural of being proud. And, you know, that's a little bit more counterculture. He's supposed to be self-controlled. Men, they lose control on all kinds of things. You know, oh, you shouldn't make him mad because he'll lose control or whatever. You got to watch out for that man or whatever, you know. Men are called to be self-controlled. You know, they're called to be good leaders of households, leaders of things. And Jesus was those things or is those things. Right. And he's the example that we could follow. So we can go back to the question of what is a dad, and I think we can answer that same question with God, you know, because God is a good father. We're gonna be singing that song on Sunday. Good Father, it's who you are, because God is a good father, right? And if you're struggling to figure out what a good father is, you can look towards God and His character. Sorry, I'm gonna pull Easton closer so he can join in the conversation. Come here, man. Sometimes a dad is recording a podcast and having a kid in the car seat. That's kind of what being a dad is a little bit sometimes. But what is a dad? And so I think that we can look at the same verses that we talked about when we were talking about what is a good mom. I will always go back to Colossians 3, 16 through. Just go ahead and read Colossians 3:16 really quick for me.
Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts.
So I will always start there, like letting the message of Christ is what that translation says. The word of Christ dwell within me richly. I want that. That's where I want my starting point to be when I need to be a good dad. I want to start it with the word of Christ. I want to start it with Christ's example. But if you want to kind of read on through 20 for me real quick.
And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged.
So that's Paul's basically explanation for the family. It's real short and sweet. Wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives. Children, obey your parents. Fathers, do not provoke your children or provoke anger in your children or annoy your children. However that's said. And I think that's really interesting of how we're supposed to. It's specifically talking dads. This is your role. You don't necessarily provoke your children. Don't provoke them to anger. Don't just pick on them. But I want to look at Ephesians chapter 6. So Colossians and Ephesians are very similar. They talk about a lot of the same points, just kind of in different they're written by Paul, but they're very similar. They're almost the same letter. But in Ephesians, it kind of expands a little bit in Ephesians chapter 6, basically 1-4. I'll read it real quick. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, for this is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you, and that you may live long in the land. Fathers, do not provoke your children." There's that same, do not provoke your children, "but bring them up in discipline and instruction of the Lord." So it just kind of nails that down a little bit more. Instead of fathers, don't provoke your children, bring them up in instruction and discipline. Fathers have a responsibility to train like we talked about last week, to train our kids, to train them in discipline. Sometimes discipline isn't fun. We can't just be the fun dads.
Right.
We've got to be the consistent dads. God, he doesn't just let us free for all. If he loves us, he's going to punish us. He's going to correct us. Discipline. He's going to teach us the things that are going to set us up for life. And fathers have that same responsibility to go and do.
Well, in Thessalonians, it says fathers should encourage, comfort, and urge their children to live lives worthy of God. So that right there, you're supposed to be consistent and show them the path they should be on. Yeah,
and there's lots of verses that kind of go along with what a dad is supposed to do. I won't read all of these, but Psalm 103:13, Proverbs 22:6, Proverbs 20:6 and 7. And some of these are saying, let me read Proverbs 20:6 and 7. "Many a man proclaims his own steadfast love, but a faithful man who can find? The righteous who walks in his integrity, blessed are his children after him." So many men are going to say, "Yeah, I'm a good man. I'm good." We're great at saying, "Yeah, I'm a good man." But a faithful man, who follows Christ, who follows the word, who lets the word dwell within them richly, they're hard to find, according to Proverbs, And so when we find one, we need to be happy about that, and then a righteous man, the righteous who walks in his integrity. So one who's going to be steadfast in walking in the way he should go, his kids are going to be blessed from that, and so, man, we have a responsibility to do these things, to be the father that God created us to be, that God calls us to be, that God commands us to be. So not every man is going to be a good man, nor every father is going to be a good one. And this is I was kind of sharing this with you before we started. This is my biggest insecurity. I want to be a good dad so bad. I want to be a good man for my wife, for my kids. That is like what drives me, is I want to be good. But what I have realized is I will never be good. I can't do it on my own. I will never be good. I will always fall short. No matter how good I can try to be, say I am. If I'm putting my trust in things of this world, taking advice from worldly figures, this is what a man needs to be, this is what a man does, this is how masculine a man needs to be, I will never be good.
Right.
Because the source of good is from God. And so if I'm placing my faith in my walk and I'm trying to be righteous like God, if I'm letting the word dwell within me richly, then I won't be good, but God will be good for me.
Right.
And that's the most liberating part, and that's how I can find rest in my insecurity, is knowing that God's got it under control, and because I'm not going to be good,
right?
But God is. And men have these titles, so when you're growing up and you're a man. That's one thing. A lot of men are fathers or dads, and then a lot of men are husbands. And so we have these 3 titles that we have to live up to.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is pressure, but
it's the same for moms.
Yeah, same for mom. And I'm not. Don't hear me discounting moms.
Oh no, I was just saying.
Yeah, I mean, we have these titles that wives have the same thing. Wives, mothers, women. You know, but we have all these titles, all this pressure to live up to. But like our most important title, and I said this a couple weeks ago on a podcast, is Christ follower or is child of God. That is our most important title that we need to be putting all of our effort on. And if we're doing that, all of the other titles will fall in place. Like if I'm a good Christ follower, I can be a good dad.
Right.
If I'm a good Christ follower, I can be a good man. If I'm a good Christ follower, I can be a good husband. It's all wrapped up in that. And that's why I go back to Colossians 3:16, letting the word of Christ dwell within me richly. And don't hear me say I'm perfect at this, because I'm not. I'm really not good at this. But I have we have the Bible, the word of Christ, to teach us and show us how to be good dads. And, sometimes some of us don't have good dads to look up to learn from, but we have God and we have his word, and that's where we need to start. So for the family challenge.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What is one thing you love about being a dad? Just absolutely love.
Oh, man. Well, I wouldn't be a dad without my kids, so I love my kids.
Right, but
I think it's a higher calling to be a dad. And it's how life is supposed to work. And so that is I feel like I'm fulfilling a duty. I'm fulfilling a thing. And I get so emotional thinking of my kids growing up. And I like to see little parts of me growing up in my kids. That's a fun part. That's my little personality kind of coming out of my kid. That's kind of conceited to say that, but
it's so cute though to see that. It's
really cool to see your kids grow up and be smart and to know things. It's also very terrifying to be a dad. That's the scariest part is knowing that your kids are going to pick things up from you that maybe necessarily they shouldn't. But hopefully I instill the good things. Hopefully I show them the way they're supposed to go. I've never really thought about my favorite part of being a dad. That was kind of a tough question. I guess I could ask you the same question. What is your favorite part about Ben being a dad?
I actually wrote that down.
Oh, perfect.
I like watching him with our kids. Like him and Carter built a thing for Carter's room, and Ben taught him how to do stuff instead of just doing it, because I'm more the type to be like, this is going to take too long. So I like watching him do stuff with the kids and show them things. And he's very good about listening and taking time to do things with them. That's my favorite part of watching him.
That's so good. Dads, that's part of our thing is we're supposed to train our kids up in the way they should go. And sometimes that's building something in their room, or if that's sometimes training them up in real life.
Right.
Doing real life things. That's a great thing about Ben. So I have a family challenge, and it's going to be very generic, but encourage a dad.
Okay.
Encourage a dad today. It doesn't have to be your dad, but encourage a dad. And I don't necessarily know how to do that very well. Sometimes a card works just fine, but
yeah.
Allison's been really good at trying to encourage me lately, and it's been nice.
I think sometimes as women, we kind of forget to encourage the men in our lives, dads or husbands or whoever, because y'all aren't supposed to be like the emotional type, and the men in my life aren't emotional. So I kind of forget to like say things to them or tell them how thankful I am for them. So that's a good challenge for me.
Yeah, it's a good challenge. And I think it'll be good for, like the men that are masculine, make them a little uncomfortable. Say, hey, thank you for it. And try and make your dad cry today. That is your challenge.
My dad won't.
Make the dad in your life cry today.
I've never seen Ben cry. So
hey,
not once.
That's your challenge. It's a good challenge. It's a good challenge. Make him cry. All right, that's all we got this week. We will talk at y'all later. We're finishing up VBS today as we're recording this, so we're a little bit. If we sound a little tired or a little kind of in a different area, that's because we are. We're in VBS world today. So we'll see. We'll talk to y'all some other time. Peace.